Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. Sitting on the bench next to me is a 2006 Kawasaki KLX 110. Now, what are our plans for this little machine? Well, we're going to spend the next week or so turning it into a full-blown pit bike. Now, if you're curious about doing this to your machine at home, well, follow along with me and I'll show you all the steps that are going to be necessary to pull it off. So let's go. So guys, when you're dealing with an older machine like this, there's going to be a certain amount of work that we're going to have to do to get it ready. And in this case, since it is a 2006, I've already noticed there's a few things that we're going to have to address before we can really transform it. We are going to go ahead and go through the top end because it's smoking. I mean, as soon as I started it up, when I went to go buy it, it was like a mosquito spray or almost like a two-stroke. So we're going to have to address that. And there's other wear parts that we're going to be addressing as far as the brakes, the suspension, the seals, the pivot points. Just a lot of different things that need to be refreshed on the machine before it's really ready to go. Now once we're through with that, then we can start getting into the nuts and bolts of converting it into a pit bike. And more than making it just seat comfortably for a larger rider, we need to take into account the suspension, the rims, the spokes, the brakes, things that we can upgrade to make them stronger where they can put up with a lot more abuse if we decide to race this in the stock class. All right guys, starting with its shoes, if you will. Well, we're going to put on a lot better tires. We're going to use heavier duty tubes. The rims, they're going to be upgraded as well, as are the spokes. They're going to be thicker where they can withstand a lot more weight being thrown at them. Going into the brake hubs, well, we're going to upgrade the brakes as well because let's face it, once this thing gets moving, it's going to need a lot more stopping power when it's got a lot more weight on it. Now, as far as the tires and the associated tubes, I went with the heavy-duty set from IRC. Now, for the rims, I went with the Excel Takasagos. I mean, they are industry leaders, and you cannot go wrong with them. Now, we're going to match those up with a set of extra heavy-duty spokes from BBR. Both the front and rear brakes are from EBC. Next, let's talk about the suspension and what we need to do with it. We're asking a lot more of the machine. You know, let's face it, Kawasaki, they set it up to deal with a 110, 115 pound rider, more than likely. And we are asking it to deal with almost double the weight. So to do that, we're going to swap out the internal springs to a stiffer spring rate on both the front and the rear, and then we're going to change out the fork dampener rods. That way it has a better progression as it's being forced down. Now next, let's talk about the drivetrain. We will be upgrading the chain and the sprockets, and we will also be changing the ratio that those sprockets interact with each other, because I want to get a little bit more top end out of it, because it is just a 3-speed. Now the chain I went with was an RK 420 MXZ. Now you'll notice that I decided not to go with an O-ring chain. That's just too much drag on a small displacement engine like this. Now for the sprockets, I went with a Renthal 15 tooth up front and the 33 in the back. Now that brings it up 1 tooth in the front, and that should give me a little bit more speed down the straights. And I know I'm sacrificing a little bit of torque, but that won't matter once we uncork the exhaust. Now once we've done that, we need to address the clutch on this particular machine. Now it's fine if you're just going to use it in normal instances, but for what we're going to do to it, we need to upgrade a little bit. So we're going to go with a little bit stronger fiber disc. I went with a set from EBC, as well as stronger clutch springs to where we get more clamping force. That way it can deal with the additional load that we're asking it to carry. Now, if you have a newer machine, you really don't need to open up the top end if you're going to keep it in the stock class. Well, this one, we know it needs to be addressed because as soon as I started it up when we bought it, it smoked it excessively and it never really cleared up. So what we're going to attempt to do on this one is not only to refresh what's in there, we want to update or upgrade some of the part numbers. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about going from a 2006 setup to a 2018 setup. Has it ever been done before? Well, maybe, but I've never seen it done before, and I won't know until I pull it apart to see, and start taking measurements to see if I can indeed use the piston and the cylinder and the head from a little bit newer model. Hopefully we can, because as Kawasaki has evolved this engine, it's gotten a little bit peppier. Now that's what we want to accomplish while still maintaining a stock setup for this particular machine. Now the real advantage I'm going to have from a 2018, this one is just a kickstart motor. All of your newer machines, they're electric start. That means I'm going to weigh about 25 pounds less than a 2018 when I'm sitting at the starting line. And that is a pretty serious advantage. Now we will be removing the entire stock air filter system and replacing an intake and air filter specifically designed and made by BBR for this particular unit. It's going to give a lot better flow characteristics, whereas the stock system, well, let's be honest, it pretty much chokes it out a little bit too much. The exhaust system I chose is a full stainless system from Pro Circuit called the T6. So far we've talked about the performance aspect as well as upgrading, well, the internals of the machine. Now next, this is where we actually create a pit bike. And by doing that, you're taking a mini-size bike and adapting it to where an adult could ride. Now to do that, as you can guess, you're going to need a little bit taller seat. Your handlebars are going to need to come up closer to you. Then you're going to need more room to get your foot over here to where you can shift it, as well as a larger foot peg for it to rest on. So all those different pieces plus a few more get upsized to where a full-size man can get on this machine and ride it somewhat comfortably. The foot pegs I went with are made by IMS, and they are more than large enough to deal with even the biggest boot on this machine. Someone did start the process of turning this into a pit bike, and they installed a Pro Taper pit bike kit, or at least the handlebars and the triple clamps from the kit. And that brought it a long way to making it easier to ride. Now this is a decent kit, and I have one on hand if I just want to replace what's already there. But I think the direction I want to go is with the bars from BBR as well as the Pro Circuit triple clamps. The Pro Circuit setup gives you a little bit more flexibility as to the height that you can run the bars at. So it wouldn't do this bike justice to do all this internal work and then leave all this old plastic on the outside. So I'll be ordering up a new set from UFO, and I guarantee you the design team that's much more talented than I am is going to come up with a cool skin logo system for this particular machine. So I can't wait to see what they come up with. Well, there you go, guys. That's everything that we're going to do to this particular machine in this video series. Now, if you want to see all of that unfold, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button or that notification bell. That way you'll be notified each time we drop one of the new videos. Now, as for me, all I'm going to do now is open up my toolbox, maybe pull a couple of parts off the wall, and then I'm going to dive into this project. So hopefully we will see you in the next video. Y'all take care.